Today I'm doing part 2 of my video from yesterday where I looked over the Republican nominees since the 2004 election and how Donald Trump compares to them, maybe what some of those insights could be for 2024. Today I'm doing the opposite of that. I am doing the Democratic candidates from 2004 to now and how that might relate to 2024 for Vice President Kamala Harris. And before I get into that, right now, Donald Trump is leading Kamala Harris in the national polling average by 2 points, 48.1 to 46.1. I am recording this as of August 1st. So the data may be a few days old by the time that this video comes out, but I don't think it'll be too far away from what this video is now. So with that said, first candidate I'm going over is John Kerry, the Democratic nominee in 2004. There wasn't much polling data available for John Kerry. Perhaps 2004 was too long ago, and there wasn't much polling data available to find, other than this News Gallup poll I found, where it kind of shows 2003 up until 2004. And in the last video, I was going over the polls as of today, as of July 30th to August 1st, and this poll did fortunately have that, so I'm going off of this poll. The only difference is for Kerry, I won't be able to see what it was like at the actual election day, but this is the next best thing I could find. Kerry is currently sitting at 57% favorable to 37% unfavorable. And if we go to August 1st in the 2004 election, Kerry was actually leading Bush at this point, 48% to 46.3%. So Kerry's approval ratings were very high, and at this point he was actually leading. Now, I don't know if Kerry's approval ratings fell off or not, but at very least, Bush's approval ratings we saw in the last video went up. Bush went on to win the election. And if we go back to the electoral map, look at 2004, as I showed in the last video, it was a very close race. There were a lot of close states. Iowa, for instance, less than 1%. Ohio, 2%. Colorado, 4%. Nevada, 2.6%. Very close election. Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin were actually all very, very close, which honestly may have been a precursor for what 2016 ended up being like. This is a very actual close election and possibly a winnable one for John Kerry. Obviously, I mean, when this came out in 2004, I was 2 years old, so I don't think I was watching politics and helping out with stuff then. But I'm sure there could have been takeaways and such and things that maybe Kerry could have done different that might have helped him. But it's a very interesting election. New Mexico, less than 1 point. So the margins of the states will tell you this is a very close election. And probably was a winnable election for Kerry. But it's just kind of tough to say. I mean, 2004, that's so long ago now. The election environment was completely different. Who's to say? Who's to Monday morning quarterback this one? But at least the polls show in a lot of states it was a very close election. And I don't think Kerry's approval ratings were the reason he didn't win, because he was definitely well approved of at the time. So that was 2004 with Bush versus Kerry. Now we're going to go to 2008. Before he became president, I was looking for polls of Senator Barack Obama before he won, going into the 2008 election. Let's see, we go back, we're looking for August or July. Find one right around here. This is good from CBS News. Obama 37-32. Approved, disapprove. CNN had 63-33 Obama, approve, disapprove. USA Today had 61-35. Quinnipiac 52-30. Obama was very well approved of at this point. And this is just the beginning of his national popularity. He got even more popular towards the election, but this was Obama beginning to get really popular. And then if we look at the election at this time, let's go to July 31st, August 1st, Obama was leading over McCain at this point by only 2.6 points. So actually at this point, the election was still relatively pretty close. It was still anybody's game. And in the coming weeks, McCain would actually get a bit of a little surge and take over Obama in the polling data very, very slightly by about 2 or 3 percentage points. But McCain had a little surge in, looks like early September, where it looked like he actually might have had a shot at winning the election. But then Obama was able to surge late, retake the lead, and at that point there was no looking back. Obama went on to win in a very big landslide election. And I want to do one final look. Let's see if we can find a poll. First week or so, November. Obama plus 21, plus 21, plus 53, plus 41, plus 51, plus 44. It's There's no debate. Obama was very well approved of, high approved of, and this is, I think, why this surge kind of started to happen. In combination of President Bush's approval ratings at this time not being good, definitely hurting McCain, and all the economic troubles the country was facing at this time, Obama surging at the end here to take the lead is not much of a surprise. And if we go to the election itself, Obama won with 365 electoral votes. McCain got 173. I mean, this is like a Democrat's absolute best case scenario now in 2024. Even in that, Indiana will not be going blue. Missouri will not be almost going blue. North Carolina might go blue, but I would personally doubt it. I think I'm a little more hawkish on North Carolina being a Trump state, even if Harris were to win. But Obama in 2008 was absolute, I mean, what word could you even call it? Shellacking, bloodbath, destruction, whatever you want to call it. Obama completely demolished McCain. The polls that showed a once close race in the summer did not show that on Election Day. And President Obama cruised into the election very, very easily. So that was 2008. Now we go to President Obama's job approval ratings going into the 2012 election. So we're going to go back to about July 30th of 2012. At this point in time, President Obama's approval ratings were some of the narrowest it's ever been, at one point where it was 47.5 to 47.5. President Obama did not have an approval rating that was negative or approved. It was just equal at this point. And that's interesting to think about because throughout Obama's presidency, it was very much of, he was very well approved of at the beginning. Around the 2010 midterms, he definitely faced some troubles and then went down a little bit, went back up, went down. At this point in the election, it was very close. But then as the election got closer and closer, his numbers started to rise up slightly, where just about a few days before, I believe the election was November 5th in 2012, Obama had a 3% or so approval over disapproval rating. And that 2.8% would actually be just enough when you look at the polls. Because if we go to, let's look for July 30th, Obama was up by 1.8 points here. 1.8% over Romney, even narrower than McCain and Obama at this time. Obama had a lead over Romney, but not an insurmountable lead. Going into the fall, Romney, similar, the 2012 election actually, when you look at polling-wise, is kind of similar to 2008, except for the ending, where Obama had a pretty decent lead, not a big one, but a small lead. Romney was able to make it a lot closer, and at one point even took the lead over Obama. And then Obama surged as of late, it looks like in September. Everything seems to be going Obama's way. And then Obama, I believe this is the time around the first debate, Obama's polling numbers actually kind of plummeted a little bit. He went from about 49.3% all the way down to 46%. So Obama had a very rough few weeks there, where Romney started to surge back up, down from 44 up to 47.6. It looked like Romney might actually have a chance at winning this election at this point. And then in the final weeks, Obama was able to start rising his numbers back up. The polling data ended with 48.8% to 48.1%, only a 0.7% lead for Obama and Romney. Everything about this signified a very, very close election. And as we go to 2012, it didn't really end up being that way, actually. It kind of did, but it also kind of didn't. The electoral votes, 332 to 206, suggests a competitive election, but not a super close election. When I think of a close election, I think of 2004, 286 versus 252, or even 2000's, the best example, 271 to 267. And I remember watching some YouTube clips from this election in 2012, where John King on CNN said at one point that this election was shaping up to look more like Bush versus Gore than Obama versus McCain. And of course, that was, I believe, a month or two out before the election, but I mean, that seemed to be the sentiment at the time. Was Romney was polling pretty well, Obama was polling pretty well, and the approval ratings on both of them were pretty decent. Not spectacular for either one, but pretty decent. And the election just ended up being, everything kind of broke for Obama, where Obama was able to win the state of Florida, which Romney absolutely needed to win. There was no debate about that. But Romney at one point was polling well in North Carolina and Virginia. Romney always had trouble in Ohio. He was never polling too well there. But Virginia, I think, was looking pretty good for Romney. Colorado, around the time of the first debate, was polling very good for Romney. And on Election Day and the weeks coming up to the Election Day, everything just kind of broke for Obama, where it ended up being that Obama won by a pretty sizable amount. Aside from Florida, Virginia, and Ohio, there's really not, like, none of the Rust Belt states were close like they were in 2004 or in 2016. Iowa was 5.8 points for Obama, Colorado 5.4, Nevada 6.7. It's interesting, a lot of the swing states now were not really swing states for this election of Obama versus Romney. And the states Romney planned his pathway to victory on, Ohio, Virginia, and Florida, Florida was under 1%, so I can give him that one, but Virginia almost 4 points, Ohio 3 points. It just seemed like Obama had enough of a polling break at the end where everything kind of just went his way on election day. So that was 2012. Now we're going to look at 2016 and Hillary Clinton. This is the one that I think a lot of people still to this day are kind of interested in the most. And, you know, let's go 2016, end of July, going July 31st, August 1st. We have Hillary Clinton at 40.3% approved to 54% disapproved. Negative 13.8 points Hillary Clinton was disapproved of. And this election, as I showed in the last video, Donald Trump's approval ratings this time were even worse. And it's very, very interesting. What can you say about 2016? Aside from the fact that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were both disapproved of heavily at this point by 13.8 points. Now let's check out the polling at this time. Let's go to the end of July. July 31st, Clinton was up here at 1.1%. But look at the polling percentages. 44.5 to 43.4. What does that suggest? Low 40s. There's a ton of either undecided voters or third-party voters who are just not happy with either one of the choices, don't feel very enthusiastic about voting for either. And, well, let's see how it continues. First, let's check by election day. Let's check what Hillary Clinton's polls or approval rating was. It was, even though it went up about a week before the election to 45.52, it went back down the election to 41.8 to 54.4. It really didn't budge all that much. It was negative 13 or so, and the last time I showed it, now it was negative 12. Hillary Clinton's approval ratings did not get much better by the time of the election. And yet, by the time of the election, though, Clinton still had a lead over Trump. She actually had a bigger lead over Trump. Trump did overtake her at one point very briefly in late July, and then his kind of started to fall off. But Clinton was leading by Trump. At this point, one of the bigger margins she'd had for the last few weeks, 3.2%. And it was kind of the same situation of, okay, yes, she's leading, but look at the numbers. It's 46.8 to 43.6. That's a lot of undecided votes still left out there, a lot of third-party vote. It's not a slam dunk that Clinton was going to win just because she was up by 3 points when there's that much vote left outstanding. And my guess would be a lot of Democrats at the time probably saw her leading by 3 points and assumed, oh, this election's over, it's in the bag, she's leading by 3, there's no way she can lose. When there was that much undecided vote, I think it definitely makes sense how Trump was able to win. And if we go to the electoral map here, Trump got 306 to 232. I would say, oh, excuse me, didn't mean to click that. If it's 306 to 232, of course, breaking 300 is good for Trump, but this election, by the electoral numbers themselves, was not a blowout and was not super close. It was kind of like, electorally number-wise, it was kind of in between being super close and being, like, kind of close. It was a kind of close election, I would say, in terms of the electoral vote numbers. But when you go state by state, you kind of start to realize just how close 2016 really was. Because Trump won North Carolina by almost 4 points, Florida by 1.2, Arizona by 3.5. That's all well and good. Iowa by 9, Ohio by 8. But Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, 0.72, 0.22, 0.76. These three states, all decided by less than 1% of the vote, gave Donald Trump the presidency. So even though electorally 306 to 232 doesn't seem like it's that small of a number, I mean, that's still like Trump broke 300, that's still pretty good. But when you go state by state, I think 2016 might not be looked at enough how close it really was. A few thousand votes in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin was the difference between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton being president. And that's something we're going to watch for as we transition now into the 2022 election. going into Biden, or 2020, excuse me, going to Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. So Biden versus Trump. Biden starts off polling a few months before, but we're going to skip. We're going to go to the end of July in 2020. At this point, Biden was actually disapproved of here. Biden had about, let's see if I can get it, August 1st. All right. Biden had 44.8% approve to 47.4% disapprove. Not great. -3 points approved about of Biden. So Biden was not doing too great at this time. The only difference is Trump was a lot more disapproved of here than Biden was. And let's just go to the election really quick. Let's see if I can get the precise date. All right, if not, we'll go around November 2nd. That's fine. Biden here, his numbers started to go up. He was at 50% approved to 44% disapprove. So Biden's numbers started to go up here very well. And now let's just go to the polling for this race at this time. Let's go to July 31st, 2020. Let's see if I can find it. All right, we can get August 1st. Biden was up by 7.4% over Trump at this time. 7.4%, 49.4 to 42%. At this point, that 7-point lead looked like a blowout. To put it in context, Trump was beating Biden by about 4.5%, and that was enough for Biden to drop out of the presidential race because he thought he couldn't win. Biden was leading Trump here by 7 points. And going into the fall, going into Election Day, the numbers didn't get much better for Trump. It ended up being 6.9, 7.2. It didn't get much better for him. 7.2%, I believe that's even bigger, I believe, than what McCain and Obama was. Let me check this out to be sure. 7.2, yeah, 7.3 is what it ended up being. So it's only 0.1% off of what Obama versus McCain was. And again, if we look back at 2008 real quick, that was 365 to 173. So Biden, based on the polls, should have had a very 2008-like matchup against Trump. However, that didn't exactly happen. Biden still won 306 to 232. And it was kind of the exact same thing as 2016, where electorally it was not a super close election when you look at the electoral vote numbers of 306 to 232. But when you go state by state and look at the numbers themselves of the votes, it was a very close election. Georgia decided by 0.24% of the vote. Arizona by 0.31% of the vote. Wisconsin by 0.63% of the vote. Michigan, 2.8% of the vote. Biden, 1.2% of the vote. Nevada, 2.4%. Very, very close margins in these states when Biden was polling ahead of Trump by 7 points in the polling averages. So I think when it comes down to is, especially in 2020's case, even though Biden was up by a lot, he didn't win necessarily by a lot. It was a very close election and a very winnable election, it seems, that the polling may not have estimated correctly. So what does this relate to 2024? Well, I started the video by showing Trump is leading over Harris by 2 points. And in the last video, I took the side of Trump and the Republicans and what they need to do to win. In this one, I'll look at the Democratic side and Harris and what she can do to win. For one thing, the bad news for Harris is it needs to be stated she's not polling ahead of Donald Trump nationally. She's still losing by 2 points in the RCP polling average. The last few polls, she has +1 and +2, but both of these polls don't show a ton of support. For instance, what I mean is Trump's getting 52, 49, 51, 48, 50, 49. The ones where she was leading has 43 and 47. That's not enough for her to feel great about. The good news is, if you look at this line, since Harris has jumped in the race, she's doing about 1 to 2% better than Joe Biden was doing. So a lot of unsure Democratic support has seemed to rally around her and has given her a temporary boost in the poll. The question is, does that boost remain temporary or does it stay constant? But the also question is, even if it stays constant right now, at least nationally, swing states is a different question, but nationally, it wouldn't be enough to win. If Trump is leading 2 points over Harris nationally, Trump will win, probably in 2016-like numbers, or even better. Harris needs to close this gap to have a realistic shot at beating Trump. And it is certainly possible. In my most recent election prediction video, I had Trump at 297, Harris at 241. But similar to 2020 and 2016, I think this is a very, very close election, and Harris, I think, can actually win this relatively easily if she can find a way to flip Wisconsin and flip Pennsylvania. Because if she can do that, she's taken away Trump's easiest pathway to victory by going after the 3 Rust Belt states that he knows he needs at least one of them to win. If not, if Trump cannot win one of those Rust Belt states, then to win, Trump is going to have to try and find a way to flip a state like New Hampshire, Virginia, Minnesota, or New Mexico. States that are definitely more Democratic friendly than Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. Harris, it remains to be seen if she can do it. There was a poll that came out today by Bloomberg and Morning Consult, which I personally have my doubts about. The sampling of that poll, I have a few questions with. The sample size itself, I have a few questions with. But I had her up 11 points in the state of Michigan. And again, I have a hard time believing that. But nevertheless, it's a good sign for her that she's doing much better in these swing states than Biden did. So if Harris can get to 270 by winning these 3 states, this is probably her easiest and best path to do it. And that's why I've been saying that as a Democrat, Harris should be picking Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, for purely strategic reasons of trying to win these 3 Rust Belt states in the presidential election. As a Republican, I'd be very worried because I think he gives her the best shot at winning those states. I don't think Mark Kelly, for instance, or Tim Walz would be able to help her in those states the way Shapiro would. But Harris's pathway to victory, it's very interesting because I've talked about this election for the past over a month, 2 months now. And the more that we talk about the election, I think it just becomes very evident that this is close and a very equal election right now. I think Trump still has a narrow edge over Harris, but the election itself is very close, and I would bet it's probably going to end up being something similar to 2020 or 2016, where everything kind of breaks for one candidate on election day, but the margins of votes of the states that decide the winner is going to be a lot closer than what the electoral vote count may suggest. So that'll do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to give this video a like and click subscribe to my channel so you get notified when I post videos like this one in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in a future video.